So, obviously, all of you, for the most part, knew Dad. Most of you knew him very well. Your father, a friend, his husband. He was a very special person. You know, he helped us all out when he could. He helped me out a lot. I helped him out a lot. I don't think he would have ever owned a bullplane had I not been one of his sons. Had a lot of firewood. All those kids did. And Dad. Most days that was not true for us, but it's what got us through. But it made us better people. Dad loved sports. Not necessarily watching sports, playing sports. Until his stroke, he was actually pretty active, doing different things. As a kid, you always look up to your dad, but I witnessed other kids with their dads, and their dads weren't quite the same. You go play basketball with my dad, and he drops the ball on the court and kicks it, and it goes in the basketball. So, he definitely had some talents. One of them, of course, was driving. His favorite two sports are athletes that he enjoyed. Basketball was Wilt Chamberlain, was probably his favorite. And then football was Dick Butkus. And Dad would show me a lot of videos about Dick Butkus playing football, and that's how he taught me to play football. And be as mean as possible. It's much more fun to tackle people than be tackled. That was kind of the theory there, playing defense. Dad taught us all a lot. We hunted together for many, many years. I remember the last time I went hunting with my dad. Last time either one of us killed anything anyway. I was working out Central Park up on a hill. I knew Dad wanted to go hunting, but he had just recently had a stroke. Maybe 6, 8 months before that. Wasn't getting able to walk yet. He was still dragging his legs pretty bad. So I told him there was a decent hunting spot there. I had to go up there to hunt it, or go up there and work anyway. I was servicing a crane up on a hill. I told Dad, I said, there's a pretty good spot into this old road, and I'll set you there on a stump, and I'll come back when I'm done working, and I'll pick you up. Just like an hour or two. He wanted to sit there and just enjoy the being in the woods. I was heading back to the work on the crane, and I see this buck down below on the power line road sniffing his doe's butt. And, well, it's hunting season. I know I'm working, but so I popped the deer and went back to get Dad. He says, "Well, that's your problem." I'm gonna keep sitting right here. So I went back and drug it out of the woods myself. Anyway, it was a pretty good day. And we threw it in the back of my work truck, or I did. It was nothing to do with Dad, but I got back to work the next Monday, and I get these phone calls telling me about this guy that was up on the power line road in a company truck. Had a deer hanging out the back of it. I said, well, I'll find out I let Dad know. He thought that was pretty fun. There's a lot of them.
We love the fall.
Oh, yeah.
In the hunting season.
This is his favorite one.
When he was a kid, his older brother started.
Type of fishing is fishing for trout, cutthroat, in the smaller streams, not necessarily river fishing or lake fishing, but wanted to be in the timber. And we spent a lot of time digging agates and that up by Mount St. Helens. Just a lot of different things. It was in 1989. We were at the Grace Harbor County Fair, and they were having an arm wrestling tournament we didn't know anything about that was there, and he told me I should enter the tournament. And we used to practice arm wrestling a lot. But anyway, that was the start of Dad and I going to a lot of tournaments together. So. Pretty soon he couldn't beat me anymore. And he showed me how to arm wrestle, and I showed him how to arm wrestle. We always kind of joked about that. He was always really strong. Right up to his last day, he could still grab your hand and squeeze it like you wouldn't believe in his condition.
Yep. Remember, after he had his first stroke, the doctor said, "Here, squeeze my fingers," and he'd hurt him. And I said, "No, he really did have a stroke."
During the week,
What's that, Paul?
Sylvie and Raymond coming from the game, so
It's all right. Anyway, we all have our memories of Dad. And I know that he touched our lives positively in one way or another, every one of us. So he is the last of his family. I'm not sure I can say a whole lot more, so if someone else would like to talk, I appreciate that. You? It's pretty quiet. No, it's fine. Let me stand up there with you. I'll edit for you.
hi everybody. Hi. I'm sure you all know me and my cousins and everybody here on the line, all of my family here. Larry back there, how you doing, Larry? Anyways, thank you for coming. Like Michael said, our dad is and Deline too said he's touched a lot of people in his life. He's met a lot of people. Wherever I go, I talk to everybody and everybody, everybody. One day maybe, but when my dad did that to me, because he does that. He did that, he just walk up, start talking to somebody, and somebody's day get better. Or if you were not a very good guy, you might not get so good. Might get a little worse for you. But you might have deserved it. But yeah, there's my daughter, my son, and my grandkids. And my dad really loves sports, like Michael said. And we write up in the paper talking about him, and traveling to Europe. And he just loved every sport. he grabbed us up when we were kids and told us we were going to be wrestlers.
Not me.
Yeah. Well, some of us were better at things, you know. He's a good arm wrestler. He don't tickle you so much in that.
Doesn't handle other guys, but
Yeah, he was. We always tickle. He was younger than us. We always hold him down, tickle. He'd get out there. He didn't like that much wrestling. My dad, he'd tell me, Paul, you go out there and you beat this kid, I'll buy you a hamburger. I'd go out there and I'd beat the kid in like 11 seconds. Pinned him. My dad said, you do that again, I'll buy you a pizza. Well, we kept doing that till I went to state 4 times out of 6 years. He owed me a lot of food. If he would have gave me all the food he promised me, I wouldn't have been in shape to wrestle. I'd have been so fat.
see you later in life.
Yeah, he gave it to me later in life. That's how I got so big. But, he made us really good kids by working us hard, teaching us how to be good to people. I don't know if I learned it very good, but I tried. I don't know what to say. He's just a really good guy, and he, I don't know, like she said, he'd go in and buy things for people, or look on the bus, and there'd still be 6 people on the bus by the time he got down those stores to get ice cream. And he'd go, dang, well, can you go buy 6 people ice cream? You know, hope you like ice cream. He'd stop and get him ice cream, buy 6 more people ice cream, you know. I mean, just, I don't know. Him, all of us growing up, we had a really hard time. Our house burnt down, and he just always going and dealing with people, getting things. Didn't have much, but he always brought things home. Delene probably don't like that anymore. The garage is pretty full.
I'm still going through stuff. Yeah.
But, I don't know. He really loves sports, and he loved people, and he's got a lot of grandkids, and they all love him. He always went to every game if he could. I remember he went to my daughter Lisa's game, one of the last games he went to. We had to get him and help him into the door from his car, give him a couple of minutes, and get him into the gym. And we set him down in the corner of the gym. He couldn't get over there, but he wanted to stay, and he stayed the whole game. I tried to tell him, you know, you don't have to stay the whole game, Dad. It's okay, you made it here. It's like, tell him to stay. He was sore and he was tired when he got out of there, but he always went to our games and things if he could make it, he was there. Yeah.
I found every kid's picture that was in the newspaper. He saved them all.
Yeah. I was in there a few times. I'm glad they weren't for bad things. I kind of escaped that, I guess, but because it taught me to be a better person than the other guys I was hanging around with. So I don't know what else to say. I just wanted to say something about Dad because I owe it to him. I love him. Thank you. Thanks.
who's next?
Well, I could stand there and talk all day about Dad or hunting or something, so I didn't go there.
Dick and I drove bus together for 20 plus years. Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Gordy.
Well, I just,
Go ahead.
I used to show up for work like 5 minutes later. If you were 7 minutes late, you got time deducted off your time card. But I showed up for work continuously for years, 5 minutes late, because who wants to drive bus and deal with the public? And then Dick and I had his schedule and mine would kind of coincided where we showed up at the same time. For the next year and a half, I'd show up an hour and a half early to drink coffee and visit with Dick. He was one of my mom's favorite people. She rode his bus regularly from our house in North Aberdeen down to downtown where she had a store. And we had lots of philosophical talks. And we get in little arguments about this or that. I mean, I couldn't find the letter. I think it's out in my bus. But I checked around. I was in a hurry and I couldn't find the letter. He wrote me this 2-page yellow legal pad letter apologizing to me for how he was always dominating the conversation, and he wanted to apologize. This long, heartfelt letter that he respected me so much, which I respected him, and I never felt like he was dominating the conversation, but he felt that it was appropriate to write me this personal letter and apologize for his behavior. I cherished his behavior 100%. I've got hundreds of stories about him. We knew each other a long time. He brought me into this family. I hauled the kids on my bus many mile. He was so proud of his family. I've never met a person that was so proud and loving of his family. Now, this loving, wonderful person, we have a little story. He was all very righteous, very, very righteous. And we used to have a fella down at the bus station that was very inappropriate to young women down at the bus station on a consistent, do you know the story, Delu? Dick gets off work, and he's had words with him many, many times. We've all had words with this fellow many, many times. Dick goes home, gets out of uniform, puts on camo, a bandana, I don't know if you know which bandana it is, comes back to the station after hours, walks him down to the alley to a dumpster, picks him up, throws him in the dumpster, whispers in his ear, I don't know what he said, well actually I do, that fellow, that inappropriate fellow, didn't show up at the bus station for another 3 or 4 months.
Yeah.
He disappeared off the face of the earth, and it was magic. Dick was magic, and that, when we had the pigeon shoot, I haven't been by, I hadn't been around. It was so magical when we had the pigeon shoot last spring here. Lisa and I got to spend so much time with him, and I brought him down in his wheelchair, and we just visited, and he wanted to arm wrestle on his wheelchair with me, and it was absolutely magic. I just want to thank, I want to thank God for the time that I had with Dick. It was special.
Thank you, Gordon.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Gordon.
Gordon.
So I met some or most of you. For those of you that don't know who I am, my name is Jonathan. I'm Rachel's husband. And haven't been in the family that long. But Dick, I got to spend a few times with him. And I just wanted to share one of the best memories I have of him with the boys. Dustin and Liam and I, we went over to Dick's house, and this was before he had to go to a wrestling home. He had this old bird feeder in the front yard that was falling apart. And
That made him so happy.
yeah, he said, well, what would it take to get you boys to come over here and fix this bird feeder up for me? And we said, well, we'll just come over and do it. And he said, yeah, all right. So we set up a date, and we came back over, and we ended up fixing it fairly quick. It wasn't a big deal, but it brought him a lot of joy to have that bird feeder standing back in the yard again. He loved that. He loved birds. And we sat there for most of the day with him, and I got to watch that generosity and that kindness and that Darlene was talking about when he was speaking with his grandchildren, and he just had so much love for his grandchildren. He talked about all of them while we were there, and he shared a wealth of knowledge with the boys about picking mushrooms, finding agates, where to hunt, how to hunt, and I think it was just really special to see how much he cared for people and how much he cared for relationship. How he nurtured each relationship according to its needs. And you don't find very many people these days like that. Everybody's so busy. They're too busy with their own lives and their own personal problems and their own issues to just go out of their way and be kind and be understanding, and to share a little piece of themselves with somebody else, you know. And I just think, I don't think I know, for Liam and Dustin and Raymond and all the grandchildren, Larissa, Dylan, he was talking about that day how he just wanted to get back on his feet and get out there with his grandchildren and do these things. And I know that when you guys go out into the woods, you guys find some mushrooms or an agate, or you shoot a nice buck, whatever it is, I guarantee your old grandpa, he's going to be there with you in spirit. He's going to be smiling right at you. And I could just tell from his heart, the strength that he had, that that's the kind of man he was. And it was just a special thing to witness that. And I just wanted to share that memory with everybody. And thank you for the opportunity to do that.
Hi everyone. My grandpa was very special, and I want to share a story about one of the times, I don't know why it's so hard to talk.
It's alright.
About one of the first pieces of wisdom I've ever got from my grandfather. I was fishing when I was younger, and he wanted to take me fishing, so we went fishing at Elma Ponds, and we were having a good time, but I never caught any fish. And he asked me if I had fun. I said, yeah, but I wish I caught some fish. He goes, it's not about catching fish. It's about the time we had together having fun and talking. It was about the time we had together. And the last time I saw him in the hospital, he told me to do him one big favor. I said, what's that? Catch me lots of fish. Every time I go fishing now, I'll always catch one for him first, and then I'll catch mine.
There's that.
Hi. Dick was a good man. He was kind to me. He was really good to me. He taught me a lot of things. The time that we had together. I always appreciate that. He was. Sometimes he was pretty funny. There was one story. I remember we were out camping up on Uchi, and we just built that beautiful structure. And we had all been out the night before. We'd all been wheeling and drinking. We got up. We were sitting there. It was about noon, and in comes Dick in his truck, and we're sitting there and we're all talking. And unbeknownst to us, two rangers come in from the backside of the camp, and they're sitting there and they're looking at that structure. And they were saying, well, that's pretty nice. And Dick just pops right up and says, yeah, my son's made this. And I look around at everybody, and everybody's like 2 shades of white. And we're going, oh no. And we look at the game words and they're like, oh. A little bit later, they left. And we went to Dick, you know, you can't say that because we're not supposed to build that up. And he's like, just kind of goes, gets that look on his face like a little kid, and he goes, I always thought that was the funniest thing. He was a good man. I'm gonna miss him.
I'm Shelby. I'm one of Dick's granddaughters. My papa was very special to me. We did a lot of things together. And one of the things we did most was go out to eat. I remember one time he took me to Delene's old salon in Ocean Shores to get my first hair dye, my first highlights. Because my mom and dad said no, but Papa didn't care. He took my little sister Lisa with me. And of course we had to stop to eat before we went there. He took us to this really cool restaurant. I've never been back. And I don't even know if it's still there, but it's going out towards Ocean Shores, past Hoquiam. It was off at the airport there. And it had the coolest, like, 1920s and 30s and 40s pictures, like James Dean and Marilyn Monroe on the
Yeah,
tables.
Atlanta's it's gone.
It's gone.
Yeah.
And it had resin over the pictures, and so you just pictures everywhere, and it was just awesome. But he took us to Ocean Shores, we got our hair done. He was just very special, and even if, you know, he'd always come over to help with firewood. Pop would be like, get you a Diet Coke, make a sandwich, come sit down, there's TV. Let your dad and brother do all the firewood. I never had to lift a finger. He was just a very special man, and I'm glad I got to spend the last 3 days he had. I'd go over on my lunch. I was working down the street from St. Pete's, and I'd go spend my lunch hour holding his hand, talking memories with Delene. And after work, I'd go see him for a couple hours, and I was on my way to go see him when Delene called me at 5:08 and told me that Papa was gone. I was on my way to the hospital. I'm gonna miss that old man. Dick's grandchildren and Larissa. One of the best memories I have of my granddad is when he took all of us grandkids to the Harlem Globetrotters.
Paul still has the ball.
He's like, we're gonna go take a special trip. Nobody knew where we were going. At least us kids didn't. My mom knew. And all I was told, you better be good or you don't get to go back. So I tried to be good. As most as I could that day. And before we even got to the game, I think he took us all out to eat. I don't really remember, but
Odds are he did.
right. Odds are that he truly did. We ate, we got to the game,
he was asking all of us grandkids that day, "You guys having fun?" We're all like, "Yeah, you know, we're having a blast." Because we're kids. And next thing I hear is, "What do you guys want to chew on?" Or "What do you guys want to eat?" And all of us kids like wanted popcorn, candy, hot dogs, and boy, he bought it all. And the last few days that he was in the hospital, he looked me in the eye and he's like, "So when are you having kids?" And he's like, "Grandpa, you have a great grandson on the way." And his face lit up like a Christmas tree. He had this real big grin on his face. He's like, "Really?" I said, "Yeah, really." And he put his hand on my cheek and he was rubbing it and he goes, "You make sure that little boy knows who his grandpa is." And I said, "Okay." And then he looked at me again and he goes, "Make sure, you know, you're a good girl in this life, and I'll see you in the next." I said, "Okay." And then, just out of nowhere, he goes, "I want you to make me a promise." And I said, "Okay, well, I can try my best." He goes, "No, you'll make me a promise." I said, "Okay." He goes, "Make sure that little boy is named after me." And I said, "Well, that's a very big promise." And he goes, "Please do that for me." So when my son gets here in a few weeks, one of his middle names is going to be Richard. So that way he was named after our granddad, and that way he knows who his granddad was. So that was a very, very precious moment for me. And he was a very special person. Loved his grandkids. Of course, he loved all of his kids. Just the same. He would always try to tell me stories about when he rode the transit and drove it. When he went fishing, he always told me, "Well, I caught a fish this big." And I was just like, "Well, maybe you did, but I was never there." He goes, "One day we'll have to go fishing." And, you know, life happens. You get busy. You don't ever get that chance. But maybe in the next life, when I see him and I will go fishing. Just him and I. So, thanks everybody for being here.
My name is Greg, and there's only one other person besides my wife and daughter out there that knows me, Delene. She's the reason we're here. Introduced to Dick about 12 years ago. I'm wearing this, actually, contrary to a lot of the stories I've heard about Dick. This is a side of him that you may not know about. My wife is involved with a fashion show for about a 7-year period, and Delene was doing the hair for the models. And I think the second year of doing the show, Dick showed up with the camera, with a vest, tie, looking sharp as hell, and started taking pictures of the models. What the heck he did with the pictures, I have no idea. I have to believe that he shared them with the models and with the lean for photo shots for the beauty shot. But during a brief conversation with him, I think my wife mentioned the fact that we were looking for some lawn art. We're thinking of trying to get an old boat, a hull to put out in the yard, in the dunes. We happen to be on the ocean, and she has this thing about lawn art. This is when he was still doing the Westport route. Next thing I know, I end up with about an 8-foot section of bow. Yellow, ugly as hell. How he got it to our house, I have no idea. But all it was a bow section. When I envision lawn art, it's a heck of a lot more than just a piece of wreck. They look like them, but this was evidently something that, from the section I got, I envisioned it must have been at one time like a 30-foot cuddy cabin. And they sectioned off a bunch of it, I guess, and put it on a float, and I ended up with the scraps as lawn art. Thanks to Dick. And like I said, this is kind of a different side of him. He dressed up to the hilt.
We can head up to the shop, or we can certainly listen to someone else if they would like to speak.
Anybody else want to say anything? I got one thing I want to say before we go. I wanted to say it earlier and I forgot. And Dick was little. He was riding with his older brother Dan, who had been a medic in the military, and they went by an accident. And Dick wanted to stop and help the people from the accident. And Dan had said no, that they couldn't help him, that the man had bled out. They weren't going to be able to do anything if they did stop. And Dick told me at that point in time, he said he never wanted to be, or I should phrase it differently, he always wanted to be strong enough to help people in that kind of a situation. And I've talked about this with Mike and some of the others about how many people he's rescued out of car wrecks. There was a young man in Elma that was caught on glass through his throat. He'd gone through the window. And there was people standing around waiting for the EMTs, and he was on his way to work, and he stopped and ran over, barged his way through, lifted the young man off the glass, wrapped his work shirt around, wrapped his outdoor shirt around his boy's neck and left, and went on to work in his t-shirt. Mike told me about one where he pulled 2 boys out of a burning car over by McCleary. One time he was on the Elma Hicklin Road after we were married, and there was a toddler came crawling up the bank onto the corner, and he stopped and he could hear the mother screaming. She had run off the road on some ice on the corner, which is now all rounded out. It's not a 45-degree corner anymore. And she was stuck in the car and couldn't get out. She was afraid the toddler would get hit by a car. There was a man that fell asleep at the wheel, and sadly he went through the window and his face was pretty well going on one side, and people wouldn't go near him, and Dick did. Dick went over and talked to him and held his hand until the EMTs got there. And I'm sure there's many more too, but that was something that he decided when he was like 12, that he was going to be strong enough to be able to help people for the rest of his life. Did you want to talk?
That's okay. Janet really wanted to say something. I don't know if she can. She got her new teeth and she's just real choked up. But she wanted to let everybody know that right before I met her, her dad died, and our dad took his place. And she really, really loved our dad because she didn't have one no more. She spent a lot more time with our dad in her life than she did her own dad because she had more time with him. She had almost 30 years with my dad, only had 22 with her dad. So I just wanted to let you know that because she can't say it. She's mad at herself. So that's all. Thank you.
Should we get, I'm cold. Should we go back out?
Hey guys, thanks.
Yeah.